Cox's Bazar is home to the world's largest refugee camp, where more than 1 million Rohingya refugees live in makeshift shelters after fleeing a brutal military crackdown in Myanmar in 2017. These refugees are now facing another threat, Cyclone Mocha, a powerful storm that is expected to hit the coasts of Bangladesh and Myanmar on Sunday with winds of up to 175 km per hour and storm surges of up to 12 feet. Cyclone Mocha is categorized as a very severe cyclonic storm by the World Meteorological Organization, which warned of violent winds, floods and possible landslides in the low-lying coastal region. The cyclone could also affect millions of people in Myanmar's Rakhine State and northwestern region, where a resistance movement is fighting the junta that seized power 2 years ago. The Bangladesh government and the UN agencies are preparing for a partial evacuation of the refugee camp, if needed. They are also providing hot meals, water purification tablets, medical teams, ambulances and emergency kits to the camp. However, the evacuation process could be challenging due to the limited transportation facilities and the COVID-19 pandemic. The Rohingya refugees are already living in precarious conditions, with limited access to basic services, health care and education. Many of them have experienced trauma, violence and human rights violations in Myanmar. They also face discrimination and hostility from some segments of the local population in Bangladesh. The cyclone could worsen their situation and expose them to further risks of disease, injury and death. The international community has a responsibility to protect the Rohingya refugees and support their host country, Bangladesh, which has shown generosity and solidarity in hosting them. The cyclone is a reminder of the urgency of finding a durable solution for the Rohingya crisis, which requires addressing the root causes of their displacement and ensuring their safe, voluntary and dignified return to Myanmar with full citizenship rights. The challenges of disaster preparedness and response in both Bangladesh and Myanmar, where millions of people are vulnerable to cyclones and other natural hazards. Cyclone Mocha is a powerful storm that is expected to make landfall between Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh and Myanmar on Sunday, with winds of up to 175 km per hour and storm surges of up to 12 feet. This poses a serious threat to the lives and livelihoods of millions of people in both countries, especially those who are already displaced, impoverished or marginalized by conflict, violence and persecution. In Bangladesh, more than 1 million Rohingya refugees live in Cox's Bazar, most having fled a military-led crackdown in Myanmar in 2017. They reside in overcrowded and flimsy shelters that are highly vulnerable to flooding, landslides and wind damage. Many of them have limited access to basic services such as health care, education and sanitation. The government and aid agencies have launched a massive emergency plan to evacuate around 500,000 people to safer areas, but the logistics and coordination are challenging, especially amid the COVID-19 pandemic. In Myanmar, Cyclone Mocha is likely to cut a path through Rakhine and northwestern region, where 6 million people need humanitarian assistance and 1.2 million are displaced. The situation is complicated by the political crisis that erupted after the military coup in February 2021, which has triggered widespread protests, violence and instability. Many areas are not fully controlled by a single authority, which hampers the delivery of aid and information. Some people are fleeing their homes to seek shelter on higher ground or inland, but others may not have the means or the willingness to do so. Both countries face enormous challenges in preparing for and responding to Cyclone Mocha, which could be a catastrophic disaster for the region. The storm could cause widespread damage to infrastructure, crops, livestock and livelihoods, as well as increase the risk of waterborne diseases, malnutrition and mental health problems. The international community should support the efforts of the governments and humanitarian organizations to protect the most vulnerable people and provide them with life-saving assistance before, during, and after the cyclone.